Hello and welcome back to the FPL show on the GallowgateShots YouTube channel. I'm your host Matt, and you might have noticed I've got a new co-host. He's a familiar face, appeared last year. It's Dan. Say hello.
Hello.
So glad to be back for a brand new season. FPL is back as well in full flow. We've got game week 1 ready on Friday, a late kickoff. So we're back to talk about Fantasy Premier League. Now, a bit about myself. I've played Fantasy Premier League for about 5 years. I've got 2 top 20k finishes in the last 3 seasons. I've also got one 600k finish in the last 3 seasons, but we don't mention that. So yeah, lots of experience, slight success, but I've never won the thing, sadly. Hopefully this year's the year. Dan, do you want to tell everyone about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Daniel. I usually do a different podcast, the UCL Fantasy Podcast, The Main Event. So that's where you'll normally catch us. We usually have Matt on as well, sometimes, occasionally throughout the season. I finished 44k last year, which was my highest ever finish, which is probably a bit embarrassing compared to Matt. But I've been getting better recently. I used to be one of those players that I'd start and quit by Christmas, to be honest. But the last few years, I've actually been trying and I've had some good results. So here we are. And I feel like last year, the key thing was getting off to a good start. That's why it was so easy throughout the season. So hopefully we're here for another good start, Matt.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, hopefully that's going to be my job to keep you going and keep everyone else going, because I know the GallowgateShots WhatsApp group, always by about Christmas, it was just, yeah, we've given up. I haven't made transfers for 5 weeks or so. So hopefully we keep everybody going and keep it interesting. So yeah, I thought before we move on, we just mentioned everybody how good GallowgateShots is. Make sure we're all commenting on below the video, any team advice or any questions, and also subscribing to the channel. There's Beyond the Lines with Matty. There's match previews every week. And there's also the Always Smiling Faces podcast, which is always absolutely fantastic. So yeah, make sure you hit the subscribe button. All that out the way with, we'll start mentioning our teams, Dan. Do you want to go first with this one?
Go on then, deep end first. So, first of all, just as a bit of an indication of how I pick my team. So I do what everyone else does, create a draft. Now I've actually only made 2 drafts this year so far. So this is my second, outside of pressing auto select when the game first starts, just to pick your team name and whatever. This is actually just my second draft. So what I did was created a draft, and then I make a spreadsheet in which I write down all the players, who they're playing against for the first 8 game weeks, and then I try and see, out of all those 15 players, what is my team going to be for those weeks. Give them a little green, orange, or red, and then I can see up to 8 weeks where I'm weak, where I'm going to be having an absolute shocker, and then I look to take out different players depending on what weeks I'm bad. So for this year, for my first draft, week 2, and week 6 were terrible. So I just went into a fixture difficulty planner, had a look which teams have the best fixtures in game week 2 and 6, and then put them in my team. So that's sort of how I do it. So it's not necessarily how everyone else does it, where what's the best game week 1 team or what's a team for the season. It's rubbish. I'll be wildcarding by 8 at the latest anyway. So just go.
I mean, to be honest, you can't do FPL properly unless you've got a spreadsheet from somewhere. I think I've got 2 or 3 that have been emailed to me, like transfer planners. So I mean, I might be able to forward you that, but
do it. I literally use Excel. Like I've just been not at all. It's so easy, so rudimentary. So anyone can do it. I did it last year and it worked an absolute treat. Last year I tried to plan transfers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've done it with just 1 transfer. Because my transfers actually didn't work out as well as what if I just kept it. So I want something that's a bit more fixed for 8 weeks, and then I can be flexible. And at the minute with this team, I've got 1 transfer booked in, and that could change. I've got until Friday to make changes. So here we go. Here's my team.
Right. On the edge of my seat.
God help me. I've got Meslier in goal. The reason
Right.
is because I think out of those 8 fixtures at the beginning, I think he's got 4 good ones, 3 average, and only 1 bad. I also think Jesse March, when you look at how since he's came in, they aren't Bielsa's team anymore, where they're playing 2 centre-backs and everyone else is up front. They look like they've got some stability. They look like they are maybe capable of keeping a clean sheet. And the other goalkeepers are all much of a muchness anyway. So I like the fixtures. And like I say, I think Jesse Marsh is going to show them up a bit. So that's why I've gone for Meslier. I've gone for Andrew Robertson and Trent, Kieran Trippier up the mags, Patterson and Williams. I've gone for Almiron in midfield with Martinelli, Maddison, Salah and Kulusevski. In my 3 strikers, Archer at Aston Villa, big name, Kane and Gabriel Jesus. So
Wow.
I've got a good game week 1 team, I think, with Trent, Robbo, Trippier, Almiron, Martinelli, Maddison, Salah, Kulu, Kane, Jesus, 3-5-2. And then moving through, Williams and Patterson would probably likely play 2 games each for me, just because Patterson's going to have Nottingham Forest. He's got Brentford, Leeds. Like these aren't games that are too hard. He's got Villa. Williams has Wolves, who are strikerless, and he's got Nottingham Forest in match day 8. So they're absolutely fine if I need them. But let's be honest, I'm probably going to be playing Robertson, Trent, and Trippier. Obviously, Trippier is going to have Man City and Liverpool in them first 8. So Patterson's going to play for them 2 games, which, like I say, would be Leeds and Nottingham Forest. Yeah, I'll take that all day.
Yeah. I mean, I absolutely love the look of your defence, and I love the idea that you're already thinking about rotating Trippier with your 4 million defender, because that's the exact same idea that I've got. However, I think my rotations are 4.5 million, but he's still an Everton player. But we'll come in a minute. So Almiron, I mean, we can't just skim over that.
No.
The guy's become a god in pre-season.
Yeah.
Nottingham Forest at home. What made you go over here? Go with him instead of Bailey, who is a maybe better 5 million option? I mean, it's Almiron, but people might argue Bailey's better.
A couple of things. First of all, I think Almiron's just had a way better pre-season than Bailey. But also loyalty, like this game's meant to be fun. Do I want to be cheering Leon Bailey goals? He's probably going to get 3 this season. Do I want to cheer each and every one of them like a total scumbag? Absolutely not. So I'd rather just pick Almiron, and if he doesn't do out, who cares? He's 5 million. Ultimately, he may get swapped. He may be that may be one of the changes I make before the season starts, and it's because of one of my other players in there, James Maddison, because we've just put in a second bid for him today.
Yeah,
so if he
please, we can't jinx anything on here, because once this goes time stamped, and so we'll be rinsed.
No, like no jinx. It's just a case of that's in my mind. So they're kind of in competition. They would be with each other, sort of, kind of anyway. So that might change. I'm not going Leon Bailey. I'd rather pay an extra 0.5 and go for Neto.
I'm going to be one of those scumbags cheering every single one of those Leon Bailey goals, just because I can. So yeah, can't wait for that. And I've also noticed that you've got Kulusevski and Kane. So you fancy Spurs to do well at the start of the season?
Yeah, I've been listening to Clash of the Correspondents. I liked Kulu last year. I think he's criminally underpriced at 8 million. I think everyone is going Son or Kane. And it's one of them where one can do better than the other, but likely they're going to be around the same. I think if you want to get ahead of the game, you're probably going to either need to be captaining them, or you need a third Spurs player. Lots of people are going Perisic. Perisic was my first draft.
Yeah, mine too.
Class at this sort of thing, but I don't like that second fixture. He's a rotation risk with Sessegnon. I think he's got 60 minutes in him because of the 5 sub thing. This is the thing with 5 subs now in the Premier League. I don't think we're going to need a bench as much, which is why I think Almiron could even be I've got to have him as a 5. I need my 5th midfielder to actually play it because I've got 2 4 million defenders. But I do think that rotation isn't going to be a problem with us because people are going to be subbed out. So if you're going for attacking returns, that may diminish, although he could get brought off before Spurs concede. But there's just too much going on there. But he's 5.5 million for defence, whereas I'd have to then take away 2.5 million for midfield. So then do I go like Odegaard or something? Or not even Odegaard. I think I'd have to go down to a 5.5. So I just don't like it. I think Kulusevski 8 million. When I look at the other 8 mils, who we got? We got Saka. When I've got Martinelli and Jesus, I do think Saka is the best 8 million midfielder in the game, personally. I just think, and I'm saying that including Diaz, I think Diaz is probably second. Yeah. Because Saka's on penalties and Arsenal are absolutely banging them in. It's just, I'd rather have the double up for the price of Martinelli and Jesus because I can't really get any other decent strikers in other than maybe Callum Wilson.
Yeah.
But then Wilson's fixtures aren't as good. Like look at Arsenal's fixtures: Palace, Leicester, Bournemouth, Fulham, Villa, Man United, Everton, Brentford. And you don't want their number 9 for that, however.
Was that all off the top of your head, Daniel, or have you got something written down?
Yeah, I'm Rain Man.
So yeah, I mean, I totally agree with Perisic. I think I read last season that he was subbed pre 60 minutes a lot last year. So obviously those who are new to Fantasy Premier League, if he doesn't make it to 60 minutes, he's just getting 1 point unless he gets an attack and return. You won't even get any clean sheet points. So for that reason, I took him out of the team. It's not a very flexible price point either. There's not that many 5.5 million defenders around. And if you wanted to boost them up to a 6 million, you're going to have to find that 0.5 from somewhere. So yeah, just wise words for you there. I think it's time for me to do my team now.
Yes, it is.
So yeah, it strikes a huge resemblance to yours in the fact that the defense looks exactly the same. Yeah, eggs shock.
Wow. That's my Chris Pratt moment.
So yeah, so I've got Meslier in goal. The fact that we might be the only 2 people in the entire world who have Meslier in goal, that's quite something. But I totally agree. I think their fixtures to start with are brilliant. Wolves to start with as well, who don't actually have a fit striker currently, and I think Marsh is going to keep them kind of tight in defence. They're going to be hard to break down. I think the fact that Calvin Phillips has gone actually might encourage them to sort out their defence, and they've made some quite shrewd signings. So we'll see. We might have just totally jinxed it, but hey ho. Then I've got Trent, Robbo, and Trippier up the mags, as you say. Yeah. Trent and Robbo in defence. I mean, it's a bit of a cheat code. You'd rather have Robertson at 7 million than try and get Diaz for 8 because you're saving that extra million. Then I've got Salah as captain against Fulham. I think you're daft if you go against the grain game week 1. I think if you are trying to be different, I don't think game week 1's the week to do it.
Matt, Twitter, they don't even have Salah, let alone captain him.
Yeah, it just reeks of trying to be different and trying to get a few likes, I think, sadly. Fair enough if it's your cup of tea, but game week 1 isn't the week to take risks.
Against Fulham as well.
Against Fulham, probably the best fixture of the entire year, albeit it's away from home. But I think Fulham are going to try and come at Liverpool because they're at home. And they're just going to get absolutely spanked, I think. Especially after Liverpool have done well in the Community Shield. Then I've got Martinelli at 6 million, who I think is criminally underpriced, who you also have as well. Although I think Crystal Palace playing at home first game might give them a bit of a game. Then I've got Bailey, Leon Bailey, 5 million bargain. Then I've got Mason Mount. You mentioned 8 million midfielders. I kept quiet, but Mason Mount I think is the best 8 million option.
That's controversial, but I'd like to see that battle, Saka versus Mount.
I think Saka is hard to get to because a lot of people are wanting to get the Martinelli and Jesus double up, and I don't think any want to triple up on Arsenal. So I think Saka is kind of a no-go unless you want to take out Jesus or Martinelli. We'll come on to Jesus afterwards because he's almost a bit of a record breaker at the minute.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Mount has nailed minutes in a good Chelsea team, and he has good fixtures to start with. Arguably, Tottenham in that second fixture isn't that good, but obviously Chelsea, Tottenham, a derby, it might be quite a high-scoring game. And I just think Diaz isn't nailed. I mean, I know Jota might not be fit for the start of the season, but Diaz could have rested minutes in those first four or five game weeks. So I don't really want to take a chance on him, especially when Robertson, like I say, is a million less. Then I've got three-pronged attack. I've I'm playing a 3-4-3.
Okay.
Kane against Southampton at home. Then I've got Wilson against Forest, up the mags again. That's it. I've got 2 Newcastle players and Jesus, obviously, because everyone has him.
Yeah.
So yeah, 3-4-3 for me. And then my subs are Clayson from Villa, their sub keeper. Don't even know what he looks like if I bumped into him on the street. Then I've got Nico Williams, and then I've got Mikalenko, who's 5.5 from Everton. He's the player who I'm going to sub between with Trippier for the City game. So I think he's got Forest at home.
Have you go Mikalenko because you feel he's more nailed than Patterson?
Yeah, and I think he offers a bit more attacking wise. I think back end of last season he was getting quite a few attacking returns and was a bit more settled into the team. So I think getting on him again. I mean, I don't think Everton will keep many clean sheets, but I'm essentially just attacking that Nottingham Forest fixture when Trippier has Man City.
Yeah.
And then after that, I'll see, because I think I'll probably play my wild card early.
Matt, say your 4 starters in midfield again, please.
4 starters in midfield: Salah, Martinelli, Bailey, and Mount.
Okay, and you got a 4.5 as your 5th midfielder?
Andreas Pereira.
Decent. I mean, yeah.
So we'll go into him a bit later, because there's a question I think about cheap players. But yeah, so that's our teams. That went well. Like I say, we've got really good strong teams, I think. However,
I've got a question for you. I do have a question.
And
it's because the same question you asked of me. Neither of us have any City players, right?
Right. This is going to lead nicely into the next segment. Should we just move swiftly into it now?
Let's do it.
So the next segment is called Players We Wish We Could Own But Can't.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, just before we move on though, it was a beautiful segue, but I just want to come back a minute. We've not got so Gabriel Jesus is 70% owned in the game. So if you don't own him and he scores, you're in quite a lot of trouble. Yeah, it's a long way down from there.
Yeah.
And that was all I wanted to say. So is there anybody who you're terrified of not owning, Daniel?
Well, I'm going to go for one that's a bit, well, obviously every City player, but one thing that one player that I'm really nervous about not having for the first couple of weeks is Jamie Vardy.
Right.
He's
not highly owned.
In last year, and I think in almost every year, if not every year, he's the top point scorer on the game other than Mo Salah. He's always the top scorer and striker. I think Antonio outdid him last year because Antonio had them 3 mental weeks, but I owned him last year anyway with Vardy. And I had the pair of them, and they were just the only 2 strikers that could do anything. Vardy starts the season well, and like whether it's penalties or jammy goals or legitimate class, he always seems to do really well straight. Yeah. So he was in my first draft, but he's priced at 9.5. I was like, oh well, I think Maddison can match him, so I'm going to go Maddison for 1.5 less.
Yeah,
and then change I can move that back into midfield, and we can sort of do some other things. So actually, weirdly enough, Jamie Vardy is a player that I really want that I can't have. In terms of being terrified, obviously, Son, Kevin De Bruyne terrifies the life out of me, more than Haaland, but Haaland and Cancelo, obviously.
obviously. Weirdly, I haven't written down Kevin De Bruyne on my little list. I don't think his ownership must be that high. I think everyone's
What?
invested in Son and Salah. So that, I mean, KDB's kind of been priced out. But Reece James at 39.9% the last time I checked. He could quite easily go absolutely mega against Everton, and I'm kind of terrified of him. So essentially, we don't own any City. We don't own Reece James. I mean, we don't own any Chelsea, by the way. Mendy is about 20-odd% owned. So if Chelsea keep a clean sheet, we're screwed. What's that?
You've got Mount and that's it.
Yeah.
What are Chelsea's fixtures like? I haven't that's the thing, because I was thinking about Mount being one of the 8s in there instead of Maddison.
Right. And I know they've got Everton away first, then they've got Tottenham. I can't remember whether that's home or away. And then I know that their next fixture is quite kind. They've got quite a nice run after Tottenham for the first 8 game weeks, I think.
Yeah.
They're a team, if you're not wanting a wild card early, they're a team to kind of invest in quite heavily.
I'm nervous about the defence for them. I don't trust them at all. But one thing I'll say is with Maddison, he's a 1 weeker. Because as much as I'd love to roll a transfer, it's not happening because price rises are so volatile, or price changes in general are so volatile in the first 4 weeks. It's why I decided to go Kane over Haaland, because I think Kane can get off to a better start than Haaland, like in match day 1. So Kane against Southampton or Haaland against West Ham away, I think Kane's going to outdo him, and then all the casuals will sell Haaland, buy Kane. Kane will go up by 0.1, then you can't get to him. So you've got to think about these things. Maddison, I'm going to sell after match day 1 at the minute, and I'm buying a City midfielder, and I'll have 1 game week's worth of data on which one am I getting. Is Mahrez
absolute gold mine of data?
I know, but again, because I do think that first 2 games, I think Pep will probably keep it roughly the same, and you don't want them for West Ham away anyway. West Ham away, tough fixture for them. I think they've drawn the last 2 times they've went there.
Yeah.
What I think is a great fixture, obviously, is Bournemouth second game, and I think we'll be more likely to know whether it's going to be Mahrez, Foden, Grealish, De Bruyne, because they're the 4 attackers behind Haaland.
Yeah.
Which of them 4 are going to play?
Yeah.
And I can go for any one of them because Foden's 8, Mahrez is 8, Grealish is 7.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably a smarter play. One other thing I could do is just drop Maddison immediately down to Grealish, take the million, add it to Almiron and get a 6 million midfielder. That could be Lingard or someone, but I mean, do I really want a 6 million midfielder?
Unless it's because you've already got Martinelli. Could be Joe Linton. Linton, 6 million midfielder.
The Redeemer. I'm scared of red cards.
Yeah, yellow and red cards, absolutely riddled with them. Like Tiote, but with bigger legs and more goal scoring potential. But yeah, so before we move on to the quick fire questions at the end, just want to say, because I missed it before and I did a little bit of geeky number crunching before. Yeah. So the reason I've gone 3 in defence instead of the big at the back 5, because there's lots of value, isn't there? You could have like 6 million or above, quite a lot of value, and have everybody in there because they're going to score points, quite a lot of points over the course of the season. But I've had a look. There's not many clean sheets in the opening 3 games of the season, historically. So in the beginning of last season, there was only an average of 5 clean sheets in the first 3 game weeks. So 5 teams kept a clean sheet. No real pattern either. It was like random teams keeping clean sheets, not like the tie scoring, strong defense teams. It was only Spurs who kept 3 clean sheets in a row last season at the start. And then the season before that, if we go even further back, it was an average of 4 clean sheets in the first 3 game weeks. Although City and United didn't, and 2 of their teams didn't play the first 2 game weeks because of their late finish in the season.
Yeah.
Because of Europe. But anyway, so yeah, no huge amount of clean sheets at the start of the season. So no point in investing in those clean sheets.
Not yet.
Yeah. Questions. So we had a question from Daryl Mitchell Hill. Hopefully you're still watching, still awake. Hi, Daryl. Is Haaland as much of a banker as everyone thinks he is, based on Pep's comments on change in style? Now, I'm guessing he means banker in terms of starting and his general form. Like, can he be banked on with points? What do we think?
Yeah, I think yes, I do think so. He's just quality. He's a bit of a strange one because obviously we've watched Haaland a lot because of our podcast, whether was it Salzburg or Dortmund.
Yeah.
We know that he prefers playing on the counter attack. He is good in the press. I don't know, he gets some stick that he isn't, but he is. So I think it will take a little bit of time to get used to how teams are going to play against him.
Yeah.
Which is why I
Sorry.
think De Bruyne is the one, because
Yeah.
I think occupy defenders like crazy, and that's going to leave him in space to just shoot from. And De Bruyne is not very good from shooting in the box, but between 20 and 30 yards out, I don't think there's a player in the league I'd want more than De Bruyne having a shot.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's interesting that what you say is he's very good on the counter, whereas I don't. City are normally the ones pressing high up the pitch, like keeping teams stuck in their own box. So it'll be interesting to see how he copes with that.
Yeah, the clever player. So because of his frame, you can't knock it into his feet. He'll knock it back. So he traditionally used to do it with Jadon Sancho. And then because Sancho's a really tricky player, Sancho could run at defences, cross it back and he'd knock it in. Or he'd play the 1-2 and he's just straight in behind. And I think Grealish is a Sancho-like player. So I actually think Grealish and Haaland are going to be ones to watch together to see if they can replicate that. But obviously how Guardiola plays and how Dortmund play are worlds apart.
Yeah, I think come game week 6 or 7, I think there'll be many people rushing to get Grealish and Haaland double up, which is weird. I had that in the draft until the Community Shield, but I think City traditionally start quite slow, I think, anyway.
Yeah, they do.
So yeah, and Daryl also asks who the best cheap buys are. We'll try and just name 3 just to kind of keep it quick.
You go first.
Andreas Pereira for 4.5 at Fulham. I think he's going to start regularly. He might chip in with the odd goal. Now you.
Right, I'm going to say Patterson at Everton for 4 million. I think he's going to start. I've heard fans he's going to start. And what else you want from a 4 million defender? So you don't need him to get points. You just need to get 2 every week when someone doesn't play.
Nice. I'm going to also say Pedro Neto for 5.5 million. I think he's probably just 5 million too expensive to be considered like a super cheap buy, but he seems very, very popular, and he's going to be a focal point of Wolves' attack, even if it is a bit shit. So we'll see where that one goes, and we'll have one more, Daniel.
What's the limit? What's the price range for cheap? Because I would have said is 6 million too expensive.
I reckon somebody who you'd happy to have on a bench for a game week or 2. So I would say probably about 5.5 or below.
Oh,
just making the rules fit my
I've got your agenda. Because honestly, I think Martinelli at 6 million is a joke.
Yeah, I agree.
And if you don't have, just have him in for 6 million, just have him in.
Yeah.
Because I think, especially when you look at how they played nice Sevilla, Saka, Jesus, Martinelli were all rotating. Martinelli was playing through as the 9 more often than he was on the left.
Yeah.
I think he's the most not underrated, but underpriced midfielder on the game.
And I think one more just to quickly throw in is Nico Williams, 4 million, going to start for Forest every week.
Yeah.
And somebody who you're happy to sit on the bench, will pick up 2 points at least every week. Happy if he comes on with like an auto sub. And yeah, so quickly, last question is from Scott Tomlinson. Are there any players from newly promoted sides worth buying? If you have one, and then I'll say my one, and then because there's obvious ones, isn't there?
Well, I think
before in the league.
I think there's 2. I think there's 3. I think there's a few. We've already mentioned Williams for Nottingham Forest.
Yep.
And just have him as your 5th defender, if not your 4th defender, depending on what you want to play. Andres Pereira, who you've got in midfield. If I don't have Almiron and I want to downgrade, I'm going straight for Pereira. And Jesse Lingard, 6 million. We saw what he did at West Ham. We saw how he likes to be a big fish in a little pond. Wouldn't have any views going.
Calling West Ham a little pond, that'll rattle some cages.
You know what I mean? That's how he feels about West Ham, not about how we feel about West Ham.
Dealt with that well. And yeah, so my pick was Brennan Johnson from Forest. Got some Nottingham Forest contacts who told me that he'll start up front and maybe play out wide as a second striker. Scored 16 goals last year, 9 assists in the Championship, which isn't bad going. Only a young player as well. I think he's only about 22 or something. And yeah, definitely I think one to watch. Probably still be Forest's top goal scorer this season. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We just need to make sure we tell everyone about the GallowgateShots mini league that everyone can be a part of. So the league code for that is all lowercase R15 W1Y. So make sure you get involved on that. Enter that into the league code section on the website, and you'll get involved. There's already 144 entries already, and that was at about 3 o'clock. So plenty of people involved. Everyone really wanting to get involved for the whole season. Fingers crossed. Yeah, is there anything you want to add before the end?
No, just best of luck, Matt. Obviously, this is all going to unravel after. As soon as next Monday night comes around, it's all unraveling. Everything's changing. Wild cards getting pressed. Bench boosts being used. Chaos.
Yeah, as always, yeah. And we will be here, hopefully on a Sunday or a Monday night. Don't know when the video will go out, but we will try and sit down and debrief the game week and look ahead to the next one every single week for you. So stay tuned. And that pretty much rounds us up. Thanks for listening. Cheers for sticking around. And hopefully see you guys next week. Good luck in game week 1.
See you later, everyone.